What if one of the world's most important trade routes suddenly stopped working? Right now, the Panama Canal is facing a historic crisis, and global trade is feeling the shockwaves. Shipping delays, rising costs, and massive economic consequences are just the beginning. This isn't just a local issue, it's a global emergency that could change how the world does business. Stay with us, because what's happening in Panama could impact your life more than you think. The Panama Canal has long been one of the most strategic choke points in global trade, allowing ships to bypass the long and treacherous journey around South America. But today, this vital passage is under pressure like never before. A severe drought, fueled by changing climate patterns, has dramatically reduced the water levels in the region, causing an unprecedented disruption in canal operations. Unlike other canals, the Panama Canal operates using a system of freshwater locks that depend on water from nearby lakes. Each ship that crosses uses millions of gallons of water, which is then discharged into the ocean. When water levels drop, the system can't function efficiently, forcing authorities to limit the number of daily transits and the weight of vessels allowed to pass. In late 2023 and into 2024, some of the lowest rainfall levels in over a century were recorded in Panama. As a result, the number of ships allowed to pass each day was cut from around 36 to as low as 24. Some ships had to wait over a week to pass through, while others were rerouted entirely, leading to higher costs and longer delivery times for critical goods. The crisis is not just about delays. Shipping companies now face a difficult choice: pay premium prices to reserve passage slots in advance, or take longer routes that can add weeks to their schedules. This has driven up costs for goods, ranging from fuel and food to electronics, costs that are eventually passed on to consumers around the world. What makes this situation even more alarming is that there's no quick fix. With weather patterns becoming more unpredictable and infrastructure built for a more stable climate, the Panama Canal may continue to struggle in the years ahead. The world is watching, and global supply chains are holding their breath. The disruption in the Panama Canal isn't just a localized issue, it's sending shockwaves through the entire global trade network. Around 6% of the world's maritime trade flows through this narrow strip of water, making it one of the most important arteries for international commerce. When it slows down, the world feels it, especially key trading partners like the United States, China, and European nations. One of the hardest-hit routes is the Asia to US East Coast corridor, which heavily relies on the canal for efficient transit. With delays and reduced ship allowances, companies are being forced to reroute ships around the southern tip of South America or through the Suez Canal, both of which are longer and more expensive. These detours add days or even weeks to shipping schedules, straining supply chains that are already under pressure from inflation and geopolitical tensions. The cost implications are enormous. As fewer ships are allowed to pass, freight prices have surged, and companies are now engaging in aggressive bidding wars for transit slots. Major firms are paying millions of dollars extra just to avoid delays. This cost trickles down the supply chain and lands directly on consumers, resulting in higher prices for everyday items like groceries, electronics, and fuel. Additionally, the unpredictability is forcing businesses to rethink their logistics strategies. Warehouses are being stocked earlier than usual. Emergency stockpiles are being considered, and some companies are even reshoring or nearshoring production to avoid dependency on vulnerable shipping routes. The disruption is triggering a global reassessment of trade resilience. In essence, what's happening in the Panama Canal today is revealing a painful truth. Global trade is dangerously dependent on a handful of strategic choke points. When just one of them falters, the consequences can ripple across continents, industries, and economies, reminding the world just how fragile globalization can be. As the crisis deepens, it's not just companies that are scrambling. Governments are stepping in too. The Panama Canal is not only a commercial route, but also a geopolitical asset, and now it's becoming the center of new international tensions. Countries with major trade interests in the region are watching closely, and some are quietly pushing for preferential treatment for their ships. Panama finds itself in a difficult position. The canal is a sovereign asset, but it's also a global service used by over 140 countries. With a limited number of transits available per day, the Panamanian government must decide who gets access first. Wealthier nations and corporations can afford to pay more, but this raises ethical and political questions about equity, favoritism, and influence. The United States, historically a dominant force in the canal's construction and control, still maintains deep strategic interests there. But in recent years, China has been increasing its investments in Panamanian infrastructure and trade, raising eyebrows in Washington. The current crisis could accelerate these power plays as both superpowers seek to protect their economic roots and regional influence. Meanwhile, regional players in Latin America are also affected. Countries like Brazil, Chile, and Colombia rely heavily on the canal for exports and imports. As delays and costs mount, these nations may be forced to pursue bilateral shipping agreements or even new infrastructure projects to reduce dependence on Panama, adding another layer of political complexity. At the heart of it all lies a simple but dangerous truth. The Panama Canal crisis is not just a matter of logistics. It's a flashpoint for economic inequality, geopolitical rivalry, and strategic recalibration. The choices made now will shape not just trade routes, but alliances and power balances for years to come. The question on everyone's mind is simple. What happens if this crisis doesn't go away? Unfortunately, experts warn that this may not be a temporary disruption. Climate scientists project that droughts like the one impacting Panama could become more frequent and severe, placing the canal's long-term functionality at serious risk. To address this, Panama is considering a range of infrastructure upgrades, including building new reservoirs, implementing water-saving technologies, and even exploring desalination plants to supplement freshwater needs. But these solutions require years of development and billions in investment, meaning relief is nowhere near immediate. In the short term, the Canal Authority has imposed tighter water restrictions, limited bookings, and introduced new surcharge policies. Measures that offer temporary stability but come at a cost. Smaller shipping companies, unable to afford these added expenses, may be pushed out of competition, leading to market consolidation in the shipping industry. Globally, companies are already reacting. Supply chain managers are diversifying routes, accelerating the use of artificial intelligence for logistical planning and securing backup ports. There's a growing shift toward regional production hubs, especially in North America and Europe, as businesses seek to insulate themselves from maritime choke points like Panama. This crisis is a clear signal that the world needs to future-proof its trade systems. Whether that means re-engineering global supply chains, investing in alternative routes, or confronting the realities of climate change head-on, one thing is certain. The era of taking global trade for granted is over. The Panama Canal crisis is more than just a shipping delay, it's a wake-up call. It exposes the fragility of our global trade system, the risks of overdependence on narrow choke points, and the urgent need to adapt to a rapidly changing planet. As climate pressures grow and geopolitical rivalries intensify, disruptions like this may become the new normal. The choices made now by governments, companies, and international organizations will determine whether global trade becomes more resilient or more vulnerable in the years to come. The Panama Canal isn't just a story about water. It's a story about power, preparedness, and the future of globalization. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like the video to support our work, comment your thoughts or predictions below, and subscribe for weekly deep dives into global events that truly matter. The world is shifting. Don't miss what comes next.